go, any new person hired will have to go in front of the board for board approval, that's not a hiring freeze.
Right. And then if there's a situation where I thought that you can't do it there, then I'll tell you.
But a person going from one department to another department is not considered a new hire, correct?
It should be a transfer.
A transfer, correct?
I would assume that. Would anybody else assume that, or?
That's the way
Because we're not increasing payroll, I mean.
Yeah, you're not increasing payroll, and that's, you were talking about the budget's our prime concern to begin with, so, yeah, that would make sense to me, we can transfer somebody. If they're already on the payroll, so you can transfer, and that would be considered to be high.
Let's let Carl, you have,
I do have a very
Okay.
serious concern about this from our department, in that we are very aggressive in seeking out grants. And if I go into applying for a grant and we get it, that not only brings in revenue for a salary, but it brings in other revenue. We had $1 million grant from Cleverly that brought well over $500,000 into various businesses in Mercer County. That is putting me at risk of having to go through my Board of Health to get approval and then come here to get approval to hire. And when you were talking about making lateral moves, that changes nothing on the bottom line. You know, you're moving one person from one department to another. In my case, we are not general revenue funded. So almost everything that we have a very small tax levy, but everything that we have comes, a big portion of that comes from either grants or from fees that we assign. So that is really going to put us in a very difficult position. And we've been incredibly aggressive in minimizing, and I think Dr. Ansu can verify this, in trying to reduce the number of staff we have and filtering that stuff out. I'm at capacity now, and I've got 2 grants I'm sitting on waiting to hear, and I'm going to have to hire somebody to get those grant deliverables done. So that puts me in a really bad
But it's
position.
still not a freeze, I mean, you still come before the board. You said, right?
Right.
But I get the grant, and then I have to come and ask. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah.
I think that's
There's a lot of times, and again,
you kind of hired.
if we've already set, the budget's already been set for next year. Every department, if I'm correct, has what their budget is, or what's allowed and everything. If you've got good department heads, and I haven't heard anybody pointing fingers saying, this one's things. They probably have a little bit of flexibility in running their department. I mean, and if nothing else, give them the latitude to put that person in place. And when they hire them, we do it at school all the time, pending board approval. I mean, a lot of times they won't take a job because of that, but at least it gives them a latitude. If somebody quits tomorrow, they've got to wait 30 days in order to replace that person. We've already got the budget in place. We're not going to be able to do, we just need to live in that budget. I think our building heads, department heads need some sort of flexibility. If we've got good ones in place, and I've not heard we haven't had, we can't tie their hands too much, but they need to take home with them that, we're in trouble.
I think what George said is we're 1.2 million short.
By best calculation.
Yeah.
Well, like there's a pending board approval, they hired pending board approval, that puts it in front of us.
Right.
It allows Carlo to hire somebody pending our approval.
Well,
Is there any allowance there for attrition though? I mean, when somebody retires or somebody quits or whatever, I mean, that job, you're still budgeted for that person to do that job that year. Like Larry says, doesn't head of the particular chair have that right to go out and say, hey, let's bring another person in to help complete this job?
Especially for the highway department, even if you got lots of my guys, that doesn't help the general fund, because we are not under the general fund. So
If anybody from my department left and I would rehire, they would obviously come in at a lower salary. They wouldn't come in at the same
most of the
salary.
time.
They'd have to start, if it was union, they'd have to start at the bottom of the pay scale. If it's one of my probation officers, I have a pay scale. We don't
Yeah, but if you've got, if you come into that job and you've already got 20 years' experience, you're not gonna be doing the bottom rate either.
No, but I can't imagine that I would pay them the same because they don't know, they don't know our job.
The maximum time delay from the request of a hire to the board is gonna be 30 days.
Yeah,
It depends.
yeah, and, you know, and they're gonna have to sell it, I mean, what I'm saying, the department heads, if they really believe in that person, they're gonna have to sell it to us, I think. I mean,
Or need for the person.
you know, I mean, I agree with Ted, and we gotta do something. But if we've got good people leading, then, you know, it's not our job to, you know,
Pick who's gonna work for who.
you know, to overdo that. You know, I'm a firm believer, and I don't know if this is probably not the right time to bring it up, but I'm a firm believer, I think this county's big enough, and I think our revenue sources has shown that, you know, I'm not against the county administrator that takes a hell of a load away from us that we don't know what half these department people do, and we're
Well, that's-
trying to run their
There's
department.
time, we'll discuss that later.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I'm just
Right, I
saying,
know, that's-
the grant money
Yep.
that person could bring in is phenomenal.
We've got,
The county administrator pay for himself 5 times.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm sorry.
that's
Okay,
getting too far off
I-
track. Let's address the hiring freeze, or what the restriction hiring, or however we wanna phrase that. Do you wanna rephrase?
Well, I'd like our state's attorney to help us phrase how he thinks that we should go about this delicately in light of what the sheriff said. We certainly don't wanna have anything where we're breaking laws, but we're trying to, as I said, Greg, with some type of scalpel, trying to address these issues, so.
If it's a general fund issue, initially, maybe just restrict it to the general fund.
Okay.
And then with the understanding that the board would have to approve new hires, but depending where the new hire is, there's this legal restriction on, I think, the elected officials, so.
Yeah.
You can say hiring freeze, that doesn't mean the sheriff's department's gonna be this year stuck with the hiring freeze because he's an elected official.
Oh, so anybody that is an elected official, their department would not be to this?
That's, understand the ruling of Rock Island, on that copy, that's, you should understand that, and if there was a vacancy, obviously the person would come forward and explain that, and then we would see.
Yeah, the other option we could do, and it's more of a nuclear option, would be to amend the budget.
Well, let's stay with the hiring freeze on the part.
It's a nuclear option.
Yeah.
I'm not advocating for that, but if you can always amend the budget.
So if we did it just accounting for general fund, that would exclude Carla's division, or her, health department now. And exclude Jimmy's, cause he's not under general fund. Is that correct? Under that assumption?
If we apply to general fund only.
If we apply general fund only.
Including in the general fund, I guess, there's a new board member who would fit into that, what department's fall in that.
It'd be sheriff's department, it would be all the courthouse employees.
Okay.
Everybody except for the schools.
Everybody but us.
Yeah, we are only paying our own insurance.
Okay, so the supervisor assessment, or that the GSI fund.
I'm fine with what our state attorney said as far as how the motion should read, Mr. Chairman. And I'll make that motion if.
What, okay, restate the motion then, please.
Well, from what I understand, that the departments that are outside the general fund would not be subject to this. It would be the general fund employees, would be subject to
Board approval.
the hiring freeze, that if they have a position come open, they'd have to come before the board and get approval for that replacement. That replacement. Replace that.
Now, the departments that are outside of that general fund, we would still pay the IMRF and insurance out of the general fund?
Yes.
Or,
Just time,
Just leave the IMRF.
No, I'm a.
we pay our own
These two pay their
insurance,
own.
but it's the IMRF,
Would that bring president and
But that's how I'd like, that's my motion. You want me to restate it or?
Please.
So we're all clear on it. I make a motion that any new hires or replacement hires in general fund departments has to come before the board for approval.
It's been moved. Second. Been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Do I have a motion to go into closed session to discuss, you wanna clarify what? The closed session 5/ILCS 120/2, C, 21, semi-annual review of minutes. Also during closed session, 5/ILCS 120/2, C, 1 personnel, and also a 5/ILCS 120/2, C, 1 personnel. That's the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
The motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?